Hey there, everyone. Thanks for being a part of this live training. This is the Christian Media Marketing Show. My name is John. I'm the host, the trainer, the coach, whatever you want to call what it is that I'm doing. And I'm honored. I really am. I'm honored to be a part of this. I look at what is going on in the world today, and I believe with all of my heart that the world needs good news, that the world needs to know about Jesus. And the ability to leverage media, to use marketing techniques, to use technology, to be able to get as many people as possible to hear about Jesus, to me is extremely important. And it is a very exciting time to be able to do that. The president of GNPI, Mike Schrage, was speaking at one time, and I heard him speak about this, and it really resonated with me when he said these words that potentially right now is next to the time when the church began, that right now is one of the greatest opportunities to have Jesus be shared with people. And so I agree with that with all of my heart. That is what I want to be about. That is what our company, Kavanaugh Media, is about, is that we want to make Jesus famous. And if you're watching the show or if you're watching the live training, then I'm assuming that you want the same thing as well. I know that when it comes to media, when it comes to technology and those marketing types of things, it can feel a little overwhelming. And so that's why we do this show. That's why we have other trainings that are available. That's why I have the podcast each week, is to talk about these things to try to help you. That's why we as a company exist, so that we can be there for people who don't want to learn all these things and who just want to leverage these tools. Well, we want to partner with you. That's why we do what we do. So on today's show, we're going to continue on talking about what we were looking at last week, which is your website. And we're going to look at why your website is an important part of your evangelistic work that you're doing. Now, what I want you to know, if you've not watched this show before, if you're watching it live, if you make a comment on Facebook or YouTube there, hopefully the software will work that we can see those comments. We can see your questions. So if you want to give us a thumbs up or a like or whatever, awesome. I would love to hear that. I'd love to hear who's watching or where you're from. If you want to give me the angry face emoticon, I don't want to see it. All right, don't give me that one. But if you have questions, if there are things that you want to know as we go through this training, ask them. And we'll try to answer those live during the show. Now, if you're watching a replay of this from our website or off of YouTube or wherever, you can also reach out to us. Send us emails, send us questions, and we'll try to address those. In fact, that's what I try to do on this show at the beginning each week. And so I've got 3 of them that I'd like to address today. 3, actually, well, 2 are really important. The other one probably isn't that important of a question. If you have other ones, make sure you're just dropping those into the comments or your reactions as well. The very first question I'd like to just approach today with you all is, we got an email from someone who is saying, we're getting a lot of people to our site, but they're not doing anything. What can we do? This is not an uncommon question that I get a lot. If people saying, all right, well, we figured out we can run Google ads, or we're running Facebook ads, or we're doing whatever on that, and we're getting people who are coming to our site, but nobody's downloading the Bible. Nobody's sending us private messages. Nothing's happening on our site. What can we do? Well, if you listen to my podcasts, or if you watch this show, or if you and I have just become friends, okay, one of the things that you're going to learn about me is that I love fishing. I'm not good at it. I actually don't get to do it very often, but I love being out in nature. I live in just within 30 minutes of the Smoky Mountains. And last week, I took a little bit of time and went out with a guide here from a Father's Day gift from last year. I just finally got to the point to use it to go fishing up in the mountains. Wild trout, fly fishing. I was so excited about it. One of the key things that I was doing and learning and watching was what insects are coming out, what's active, what is the bait, what are the natural things already happening, and then looking to see how the trout were responding to them. I think so much of what you and I do with evangelism, with Christian media marketing, relates a lot to fishing, to what it is that we're trying to do. And so where I think that this comes back to answer this question, it is similar to fishing, that if you're throwing out the wrong bait, if you're throwing out there something that doesn't look natural or isn't enticing to the fish, they are not going to bite. Now, I love pizza. All right, so if you put pizza on a hook, I'd probably be biting at it. You throw pizza out there in the water, and those fish are going to swim away. So it's getting the right message in front of the right person. But there needs to be some sort of reason for a person, first of all, to even click on the ad, and then on your website to do something next. And so more often than not, in fact, I've read that it's over 90% of the time in just sales and marketing, when something isn't working right, it is your offer. What you're offering doesn't seem enticing, appealing. It doesn't meet a need that they have. And so the message may be, hey, click a private message here. Click the Facebook Messenger icon or WhatsApp or whatever you might have. We'd love to talk to you about Jesus. Or answer this question about which one might you be here. Are you the lost sheep? Are you this or that? That's not what the person who just came to your website is thinking. That's not where they are. So we always need to be thinking about next steps. When I used to teach, I was a Bible college professor, and I taught preaching. And one of the things that I would say a lot to my students is, so what? So what? What it is that you're saying, what does that matter to a person on a Tuesday when they're out there trying to make a living? When they're out there trying to be a good parent? So what? What is this? What is good news from what you're sharing? That's one of the reasons why I believe that prayer itself can be such a powerful marketing message, such a powerful Christian message that we can give out to people is, how can we pray for you? And one of the reasons I believe it's powerful is because it's what I would do physically when we were church planters working over in Taiwan, is we would approach people and we would just ask them, how can we pray for you? It's a low entry. There's not a lot of friction there. It's an easy thing that we can do and that they can respond back to. And so if you're finding that no one is doing anything on your site and they're coming there, couple things. Make sure that you understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint. I get frustrated with people and teams that I hear of, hey, we're running a messaging ad and we didn't get 1,000 people. That's not going to work. I mean, if you could imagine, you're talking to people who for the very first time are hearing about Jesus, and you expect them to make a huge jump there or to profess Christ or whatever after just that one time. It's usually not going to happen. Google says it takes over 20 times for a person to just look at something online before they purchase it. We're talking about a whole worldview change. And so think consistency and give yourself time. On all of these things we're teaching you, give yourself 6 months to a year and you'll start to find that rhythm. But if you're seeing that you have lots of traffic to your page and that they're on your page, look at how long they're staying on there. And we're going to look into that here in this training of Google Analytics, okay, of knowing that data. But if they're not then clicking on the messages, it's probably your call to action. It's probably the content. There's nothing that's compelling them to feel like that they need to comment or to say something either on the ad or on your page. So check on that. Check what it is that you're saying and just go back and look at it from the perspective of the person who's coming to your site. That's always a good way to look at everything that we're doing. The media, the marketing, our discipleship, online or offline, looking at it from the other person's perspective. All right, another question. This one's a big one. We lost the ability to do messages for 7 days. Any idea as to why? Well, yeah. First of all, if you got that notice, then it's going to tell you that you're probably breaking the developer policy 8.8.1.b. And it's going to say that it is something to do with your messaging tags. Now, I could be wrong. It could be something else that you've done. But when it comes to messaging, specifically on Facebook, you now have a window of time to respond back to people. So there's probably two issues that you're facing if you've had this. And truthfully, the reason why this question came up is because I've been asked and I've noticed it on about 5 accounts just this last week. And they are mature accounts. They've been doing it for quite a while, right? So there's two problems that you could have. Somebody can send a private Facebook message to your church or to your ministry or to your mission page, and you take too long to respond back to them. So it's been 36 hours, and now you send a message back to them. That's not going to work. You have a 24-hour window to respond back to a message when somebody sends that message to you. It used to be what we would call the 24-in-1. You had 24 hours, and then you could send one more message outside that window. That's been changed. So now you have a 24-hour window, which is good. We should be responding quickly when people are there, when they're online. So if you're doing it outside that window, then that could be a problem. Now that clock resets every time somebody sends you that message. So if you send a message back to them saying, yeah, I'd be happy to pray for you, you may want to follow up on it in less than 24 hours just to check into them. As soon as they send a message back to you, now your 24-hour window has renewed. It started over. But the other thing that I'm noticing is that many of you are having this issue. The one common denominator is ManyChat. You're using a chat bot and it is not set up correctly. Specifically, the messaging tags. The messaging tags are not being utilized according to Facebook. This is what they're saying is messing up your whole system, is the messaging tags. So if you're using a chat bot like ManyChat or ChatFuel or whatever, you really need to make sure that you're doing it right. I had someone say to me, why don't you like chatbots? And I said, it's not that I don't like chatbots. I just don't believe a chatbot can do what a human can do when it comes to discipleship. What they're great at is filtering where a person is. You know, why did you come to the site? What describes you? I want to know more about Jesus. I have a question. I want to argue or debate. They're self-identifying. Chatbots are great for that. Even if you don't use a chatbot, you can set up just your messenger auto reply to filter like that. And I also think chatbots are great for sending out, distributing media, little bite-sized bits of content that people can subscribe to, and you can send them out to them. When it comes to real heart-to-heart discipleship and evangelism, let's leave that to the disciple makers to be able to do that. So we can leverage chatbots to best manage our time and to filter for the people who are ready to respond or really have a question or whatever. But please, if you're using a chatbot, make sure that everything is set up correctly. That's part of that problem. All right. I'll probably talk more about that one too on my podcast. So some of these we'll be talking a little bit more in detail in the next week or two. All right. One final question that came up. Do you always wear black shirts? Yeah, a lot of times I do. And so I also really like keeping my hair short. That's the reason why I have a beard. So if I could wear a black t-shirt every day of my life, I'd probably be happy with that. That's also just one reason why I'm thankful to be married, is that my wife helps me dress myself to find other colors or other things to wear and to challenge my fashion things. And so, yes, I tend to wear black a lot. Supposedly it makes you look skinny. Is that true? I don't know. But anyway, all right. So thanks for those of you who asked that. Actually, 2 people asked me, why are you always wearing black? Well, that's why. All right. Let's talk about today's training, what we're going to look at. And it is specifically a continuation of what we looked at last week, which is websites. Websites are really important in your overall Christian media marketing strategy. If you're not leveraging websites in your overall strategy, I think you're going to be missing out. As we talked about last week, they are a place where you can put all of your content. They're a place where people can go and you own it. It's yours. Whereas these social media channels, well, they are rented. They're rental property. We don't own them, and they can go away at any point. So it's important for us to have a place, a a home for our Christian media content, a home for our ministry, our church, or our mission activity of what we're doing. So in today's video here, in this training, I want to give you 5 key things that I really want to encourage you to be thinking about. And we're going to introduce the idea of Google Analytics. We're going to look more at that in about 2 weeks from now. We're going to start diving into that, which will really help you dive into that area of analysis of what's happening on your website. But to me, a website's so important. We had the preacher of the church that we go to here, he and his family were at our house last night, and I just told them, I might not have chosen the church that we're going to because of the website, because of the audio of the live stream, because of just the quality of that. And yet now that I'm there and I know the people, I love it. And so a website, that's that first point of contact many times. It could be an ad that first brings it to them, but that's that place where you're going to make that impression. So we're going to look at 5 things that I hope that you can be considering in your websites. If you have questions, make sure you're putting them there in the comments, and we can address those at the end of this training. Let's get ready. When you're designing your website, maybe it's an evangelistic website for a mission team, maybe it's your church, whatever usage that you're wanting to use it for, there's a lot of variables that come into it. Trying to decide what server, what name, what color, whether it's going to be a WordPress or other type of site, or maybe it's a different type of site altogether. Maybe it's a part of something like Wix or a different service like that. Now, WordPress itself is the largest. In fact, so many of the websites on the web are using WordPress. So I'll kind of talk about that one, but really the principles in this video apply to any type of website, regardless of what type of platform you're using to build them. The first thing that I want you to be thinking about, all of these elements to be thinking through, is to think mobile. When you're thinking mobile, it's really important to think about what the person that you're trying to reach, what are they going to see on their mobile phone. So there's ways to test that, and there's ways to set up your site to make sure that it's mobile friendly. One of the things that I'm seeing is that so many people, especially overseas, are accessing websites using only their mobile phone. In fact, it's in the upper 90 percentile around the world. So one of the things that you could do is to make sure that you don't have a navigation bar that's filled with text. You might just have something with 3 little lines that when they click on it, then it will give them the different pages and options there. You also want to optimize your site and make sure that the file size is small on your pictures and on your videos. And when it comes to videos, I really encourage you to embed videos straight from YouTube or Vimeo or some other video service like that, instead of literally putting the video on your site, on your server. You can embed it there, put the link to it there on your site, and it will show on your site, but now it's using Google or Vimeo's servers and their content display network. It is passing out that information wherever that person is in the world, instead of having to go through where your WordPress or your website is stored at, which is just not a good way to do it. So optimize your site. Keep your file size really small. Your pictures don't have to have every color on them. You can reduce the file size of your pictures as you're doing it. Make sure that your links are clickable on your website. Thinking mobile first allows people then to click on a button and it will open up Messenger, or to press a button and maybe a WhatsApp call. Whatever they're trying to do, maybe it's just to call your office and it's a phone number. Make the links clickable on your website. A responsive website is one that, as you turn your cell phone sideways, horizontal or vertically, or if you're using an iPad or different type of device, the site itself will expand or contract. You can even say certain elements are only supposed to show up if it's a desktop that the user is using to access your website. So most WordPress themes are responsive, but you want to check that before you get going very far into your website design. Make sure you're also testing everything on the website. Make sure it works both on mobile and on your desktop. It's possible to make things look great and to work awesome on your desktop version of your website, but then they don't work when it comes to mobile. This can be especially true with JavaScript, so be testing everything before you go live with it. I really don't recommend that you use pop-ups on your website. I don't like them. Do you? I mean, really, I don't think they really help. In fact, I think they can be something that can make people be very frustrated with your site. So I would highly discourage you using pop-ups on your website as well. And because we're thinking mobile here, you may want to break up your pages. If you have a long article or a lot of text, you could use collapsible content boxes, or you could just have page 1, page 2, page 3 be what you would have done on a desktop page, putting all of that text there. The nice thing about that too is it really lets you see how far a person is going in reading the articles or looking at your content. As you're doing it, make sure though you put your call to action buttons on every one of those pages. The other thing to think about, another one here, is to think social proof. Social proof allows you to build this idea that other people like what it is that you're sharing. I used to live in Taiwan. My family and I were church planters there. And one of the things that we learned by living there is that you could look at a restaurant and many times you could decide whether or not you really wanted to go there just by the lines. If a restaurant had a long line and then the one next to it had nobody inside of it, honestly, I didn't want to go in the one that didn't have anybody inside of it. That's social proof. That's where likes and hearts and people sharing, that helps people realize that other people are liking this content. So think social proof even on your website. One of the ways you can do that is by using testimonies. Using testimonies, and if you can use pictures, that's great to do that. Testimonies allow people to see that others like them are liking your website, your church, your ministry, the Christian content that you're putting out, whatever it might be. So use testimonies and use a lot of them throughout. Scatter them throughout your site and on different pages. Also, I would recommend that you use a share button that allows people to share quickly with like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram the content that's on your website. Adding these little share buttons aren't hard technically, but they can really increase your social proof. Finally, if you're running articles where people can make comments, make sure you're moderating the comments both on your site and on your ads that may be bringing traffic to your site. So like on a Facebook ad, that you're moderating them. Be careful about the comments that people are making. It's an opportunity for you to share Jesus, to share how you respond in grace and in love, but you don't need to let people get on there and overwhelm the page with negative things or critical things or cussing or talking and trying to share about their own religion or whatever. This is your site. Make it a safe place for seekers to come and to explore the content you have on there. Think speed. Every second matters when it comes to your website. And one of the tools that you can use is Google Analytics. One of the nice things about Google Analytics is that it also gives you a lot more information beyond just what people are doing on your site. For example, what pages they have gone to or what buttons that they have clicked on. There is a function built into Google Analytics that can help you analyze your website when it comes to speed. So in Google Analytics, and it may look a little different for you depending upon which version you are using, but within it, underneath behavior, you will notice this button right here that says site speed. So we'll come to your home page to start, and then from your home page, you'll click on behavior, and then click on site speed. Now, when you click on the overview button, now it's going to show you a bunch of really good information about your website. You can change the timing of it up here in the top right. So we'll look at this last month, and these are the pages that we are looking at. This is the information that's going to help us know what's happening on our site, and specifically when it comes to site speed. So we can see here just on the overview page of the average page time in seconds to load, the average redirection time when it's sending it to something else, lookup time, your server speed, response time from the server, download times, all of this really matters. It's all really important information. Here, as we look at the browser, we can see different types of browsers load the content at different speeds. So depending upon where your target audience is, that can impact the type of information and browser and types of phones. All of those things are a big part of understanding just who your audience is. So depending on your audience and what kind of browsers they use a lot, well, you may want to just not have certain types of content on your website. So this is one. You can also see if your site goes to more than one country, the average page time per country and what it is doing, because once again, different countries, different areas within the country are going to have different types of internet bandwidth and speed. So you need to look at that. But here's the one that I think is most important for all of you, and that is just page by page. You can begin to look at your pages and look to see if there's any outliers here of any pages that are taking 4, 5, or maybe even 10 seconds to load. You can begin to see those, and then you can look up what it is that is causing issues with your page itself. Over here under site speed is one that's called page timings. When you click on that button, then you'll begin to see how that page compares to other pages on your site. And there's a lot of ways to look through this. There's a lot of other bits of information. It may feel a little overwhelming. So just start with the basic pages. Things like the DOM timing and things that are talking about the specific elements on a page. Well, if you're not sure what those are, make sure you talk to your web developer or just do a Google search and you're going to find a lot of information about them. This within Google Analytics also gives you some speed suggestions. Because Google is looking at your website speed, it's going to give you ideas about lowering the picture size, lowering different types of information that you might have on there, different types of forms. And so it's going to bring up all sorts of suggestions for each of these pages. And then when you click on them, they will tell you some things that you can do to speed it up. This will help Google see that your site is faster, and they will reward your site with better algorithm, better results in the search engine result pages. So this is giving you a page speed score. Also remember, anytime when you have a question, just put your mouse over that question mark and it'll explain it in more detail. So those are the things that we're looking at. The final one here would be user timings. When you click on that one, that's going to show you things that the users are doing, or to load something, or things that maybe that they're doing. You probably won't be using that one much. So to get started with it, go to Google Analytics, make sure it's installed on your site, and once it's there, it collects data, and you can begin to look at your site speed. It's also important to think about testing. So you want to try to test every variable that you have, but you only want to test one variable at a time. You do not want to do what is called a multivariate test. Then you have to do all sorts of statistical analysis, and let's not do that. Just test one thing, one picture. Maybe you put the picture on the page, maybe you don't, and use free tools like Google Optimize. When you begin to test on your website, there is a great tool that's available to allow you to do an A/B test. This allows you to segment your audience, to look at maybe one picture on one page, but then try a different picture to see if that helps people maybe download the Bible more or send more messages. You could use a tool like this to test copy. You could test headlines, color, the different creative elements like videos or pictures, elements of themselves on the page, maybe different menu options, all sorts of things. You want to always test just one element at a time, and Google Optimize, a free tool from Google, allows you to do that and to really segment your audience. You could test and see if a page that has a woman reading the Bible versus a man reading the Bible, which one of those perform better. We never know for sure. We can look at data from one place, but it really depends upon you, your target audience. So Google Optimize is a great tool to be able to do that. Here's just a basic example then. Once you set up, you will have your original page, and then you will create a variant. For me, this was a no picture variant, so an even faster website. Ran a really quick experiment, just seeing what happened after people began to look at this, and how many pages did people look at after they went to this one. So this just helps you analyze it, to look at it, and to see if one variable helps you accomplish your goals better than another one. I really recommend Google Optimize be a tool, a part of your website strategy as you're trying to see just what it is that the Spirit is doing in people's lives and what things help them, maybe encourage them to take that next spiritual step. Thinking security is important, and it needs to be there in your thinking from the very beginning. Be very careful what plugins that you use on your site. Make sure that they've been used a lot. Make sure they work with your website. Make sure they're reputable. If you're not sure, don't use them. Because honestly, a lot of the hacking and a lot of the issues come about from plugins and not being updated, which is the other point here. Update, update, update. If you're going to have a website, be checking your content, be checking your Google Analytics, make sure that your site is working right, and update the content on it and the plugins that are being used on it as well. All of these are really important. So, to wrap up, we want to think about mobile and making sure that your website works well for those who are coming to your site from a mobile phone. We want to think about social proof, using testimonies and other tools to let people know that they are not alone, that there are others who are interested in Jesus and what it is that you're sharing. We want to think about speed, because every second counts. When someone is trying to seek and search and know who Jesus is, we don't want anything to slow that process down. We also want to think about testing. Always be trying to explore and just understand better the audience that we are trying to reach, who the Holy Spirit is reaching out and speaking to in their lives. What things motivate them, persuade them to click or to discover more. Finally, we always want to be thinking about security, because security is important. We don't want our website or the user information or anything else that's on there to get into the wrong hands. And so we want to update and make sure that our site is current, both technically and in the content that we're sharing. I hope these tools are going to help you to have the best possible website, to be able to reach out to Jesus, and to use these things to make Jesus famous. All right, and that is our goal. That's what I want. I believe that's what you want, is to make Jesus famous. There are so many millions of people who have never heard, and we need to use every tool possible to help people know about him, to connect them with someone who can talk to them about Jesus, who can disciple them, and then hopefully meet them even face to face, and be able to see the beginnings of a movement, of a church, of whatever way that you're working to see that Jesus is known. So I hope that today and all these trainings will help you. That's why we exist. That's what Kavanaugh Media is about. That's why we partner with people like GMPI and many other great organizations that are out there. Next week, we're going to be looking at really almost like a dictionary. These are the key terms, because as you hear these terms, you really need to know them, because they're going to help you be able to know not only what to do, but then how to respond to different things. This will apply to Facebook, to Google, to Twitter, to you name it. So we're going to be looking at that. And then, Lord willing, the week after that, we're going to start to dive into Google Analytics a little bit more. If you're hungry to get started, you can always go to our website at KavanaughMedia.com, and there are courses on there showing you, video courses, how to do all of these things and to get started. So I hope that you'll check those out. If you would, I hope you'll subscribe to this podcast. I hope you'll do the podcast we have each Friday. I hope you'll subscribe to this show as well here on YouTube or Facebook. And I hope that you'll share this with other people. That's our desire, is to try to help as many as we can. And so if you know of some people who are wanting to make Jesus famous and maybe they feel completely overwhelmed by technology, that's okay. we're willing to work with you and to walk with you and to help you in any way we can. So until next week, if you've got questions or comments, make sure you're reaching out to us. You can send us a message through our website or on our Facebook page, Kavanaugh Media Facebook page. But until next time, I want you to know this. We're praying for you every day. We are praying for you, and we are excited about the future. In fact, there's an announcement that I can't wait to make, but I've just got to wait a few more days. Maybe by the podcast, I don't know, but it is going to be exciting. It's one of the most exciting things that I will have ever been able to say on a show, and it's coming. And so I just see so much that's at work, so much that God is doing, and I'm excited by it. And I am excited and honored to do that with you. Let's put our hand together to the plow. Let's experiment, and let's make Jesus famous. Until next time, take care, and God bless.